This is the Eagle Eye Podcast with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. Eagles right now have projected to have about $20 million in cap space, but you have to remember that they're going to have 3 first-round picks, so there's going to be significant money for draft picks, so it'll be less than that. But some positions, and we've talked about receiver quite a bit, and we can mention it again. We're both in agreement that if you're looking at a position the Eagles should add to in free agency, receiver at the top of the list. And we talked about Devontae Smith wanting that as well. I think that's significant. And there are some good names out there, and we talked about them before, but would that still be at the top of your list for positions?
It'll still be at the top of my list, yes.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense for a lot of reasons that we've covered, but there's other positions as well that would make sense.
Yeah, how about so give me another one that if you're looking at it, you think, well, maybe they could add there.
Well, edge rusher is one that, I mean, they're going to have to, they might need 2. And I mean, we don't know when Brandon Graham will be ready. We don't know if he'll be ready. We don't know what they're going to get from him if he is ready. So I think, that's a position that they've got to address, maybe in multiple ways. Maybe a draft.
I've got a good, I know the perfect player. I think he's 25, about to turn 26, former first-round pick, great ankle flexion and bend.
Underachieved with his first team.
Underachieved, really tough player.
Has played in the Super Bowl already.
Has played in the Super Bowl. Has some big moments under his belt. Would you want that guy on your team?
No. What do you have, 2 sacks this year? No, not for me. But somebody's going to pay Derek Barnett $10 million a year just based on traits.
It is funny though, because if that player's on another team, fans want him.
If you see the sack numbers and the quarterback hit numbers, I'm not sure you would.
Well, the QB hit numbers have always been good for him.
Yeah. Well, my guy is like Derek Barnett. He's a former Philadelphia player. I almost said Hassan Ridgeway, but Hassan Reddick is an interesting guy to me. He's a little older, but kind of a late bloomer. It was just kind of a matter of finding a position for him. Had the big last year in Arizona and then goes to Carolina. He's got like 23.5 sacks the last 2 years. And he's a little undersized to be an edge rusher, but he's productive and he gets the quarterback. And I've always liked him. It was just a matter of kind of finding out how to use him. Teams tried to use him as a linebacker and he's been most productive as an edge rusher and just getting to the quarterback and just bring him in and be a third down edge rusher. And obviously a Temple guy, South Jersey guy, I believe, Haddon Heights. Is that right?
I think so.
Haddon Heights. So that's my guy. I think you could. I don't know if he grew up. I don't know if you get a little hometown discount because he's from here, but I don't think the price will be astronomical because of his age. He's a little older, but he'd be at the top of my list for. There's some good edge rushers out there, but he'd be at the top of my list.
Yeah, he's an interesting one because he was really drafted as an off-ball linebacker, and then they were like, "No, you're an edge player," but he's not very big, so he's like he's been typecast a little bit, I guess, as like an outside linebacker or a 3-4 guy. But the Eagles could use a guy like that too. I mean, they've been multiple, so at least they seem to want to be multiple up front, and I'm sure Gannon could find a way to use him. I don't know about the price. Edge rushers get overpaid, and that's the problem with all these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I got to pick one, so whoever it is going to get overpaid. But
would you be in on like a journeyman mercenary Jadeveon Clowney signing? Assuming they draft a guy and you can like plug another, you know what I mean? Plug a guy in for a year and hopefully the draft pick comes along.
Yeah. Probably not. I mean, I think he's a guy that would probably be less cost efficient than Reddick. And I just don't know where he is in his career. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I'm just not a fan of his. He's been a really good player. I'm gonna check his stats while you
Okay, I can talk about him a little bit. I kind of like that he's a mercenary now. He's just going team to team year in year out. Uh, I don't know if you can like build around a guy like that, but you can bring him in for a year, and he's a really good run stuffer too. Everyone talks about him as a pass rusher, and he's been okay as a pass rusher, but he's a solid player overall. He's never really lived up to being the first overall draft pick, but the injuries I think slowed him down early in his career, and he's probably not the player he once was. But I don't know. I think it's probably unlikely, but it's an interesting name out there, and it's going to be. We can talk about him every year. I think he's only going to sign 1 year deals, and we can talk about him each free agency.
Well, this will be his fifth team in 5 years, and yeah, I just don't think I'm not sure he fits. I mean, yeah, I mean they have signed some veterans to 1 year deals lately, but I think at this position, I'm not sure that's what's ideal.
Would you take a flyer on Dante Fowler? Just got released by the Falcons. Another undersized, kind of outside linebacker type,
Yeah,
but former
probably not.
first round pick. No.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably not. But who is Clowney like at the top of your list?
No, it's the list isn't super great. I mean, there's
No,
some older players on here
right.
that I would kind of stay away from. Like JPP is on here, and Jerry Hughes is what 33, 34 already. So the list isn't great, honestly,
Yeah.
at edge rusher. So you got to figure it out from there.
Well, I figure if they draft a guy and have Sweat and BG, then this guy who's coming in doesn't have to be. He doesn't have to be an every down player. He doesn't have to be the savior. You really just need a piece of the puzzle at edge rusher. Like when you're looking at a free agent wide receiver, I mean, you need a guy who can be, a WR2 and pretty close to being, to being number one, that good. You need a really high caliber guy. I think with the edge rusher, you really just need a piece of the puzzle. That's how I mean it's going to be expensive because just edge rushers are, but that's why I think Reddick's a good fit because you don't need him to play every down. You don't need him to because you're gonna be rotating BG in there anyway if he's there. So I think that's what makes it a better fit. Just that you don't need a guy who can come in and get 15 sacks to be a Pro Bowl. You just need a guy who can help.
Yeah, I get that. How about I give you another position, safety, and we'll see what happens in free agency. Anthony Harris from their own free agents, Anthony Harris and Ryan McLeod are both set to be free agents. You and I are in agreement that maybe you bring back McLeod if the price is right, and he obviously wants to be here. So I would do that, but everyone talks about linebacker, and they haven't drafted a linebacker in the first round since 1979. I mean, they've never drafted a safety in the first round, and I don't see that changing. Maybe they draft one on day 2 and they can bring them along, but it's a position where they don't really have a ton right now. They have their top 2 are free agents. They have Marcus Epps, who's been all right. They have Kevon Wallace, who hasn't really played much. That's it.
Ben Smith was a first round pick and became a safety. He was
Does
a
not count.
corner when they drafted him. He was a corner, became a safety after his ACL. But yeah, they're not going to take one in the first round. There's not a lot of safeties get drafted in the first round anyway, as opposed to there's more linebackers do. But yeah, they don't have much. I mean, I think even if you do bring Rodney back, I think it was clear this year that the best way to use him is not 100% of the snaps. I mean, he started playing better when he was getting 70, 75%. I don't think Epps is. I think I like Epps, but I don't think he's a starter or at least I just don't see him being that caliber player. I think he's more of a sub package guy. So it's definitely a big need. It's really it's as big a need as maybe not as receiver, but as it's close. Especially if Rodney doesn't come back, now you're starting from scratch.
Yeah.
So, who's any names jump out at you at safety?
Yeah, this is a position where I feel like the crop is better than at edge, really. There's some names here. Marcus Williams from the Saints, and he's 25. It's, you can, these guys are normally expensive, but they're the type of free agents you want, ideally. You think back to when they signed Rodney the first time. I think he was 26 coming off the rookie deal. They signed Brandon Brooks that year too. Like, those are the kind of signings you can build around. It's not just a 1-year signing. And Marcus Williams, to me, would fit that. There are some other ones. Justin Reed from Houston is another younger player who's going to be a free agent. So there are guys at this position you look at and say, they can sign this guy, but also they can really build around him too. They don't have to just have a stopgap player. And that's ideal to me.
Howie dreams about 25-year-old unrestricted free agents. He talks about it every year when we talk to him in the spring. That's his ideal, to have that guy who's still going to be in his 20s when that contract ends, that first big, free agency contract the guy gets. So yeah, Marcus Williams is certainly right up Howie's alley, I would say. And they've had good luck getting safeties from the Saints anyway.
It worked out one time. Yeah.
Yeah. And then eventually, when he's done here, he can go back to New Orleans.
Finish his career there. That's my thinking on safety. I think there are definitely, I'm looking at the list, and look, I don't think they would do it, but Tyrann Mathieu is available. I think he's going to end up back in Kansas City, but he's a playmaker. He's one, and this is just like a person. He's one of my favorite players in the league to watch.
Yeah,
which is why I'd selfishly like them to sign him just so I could watch him play.
Yeah, I think he'll be going back there. But it's a great name. If he hits the market, he'll be expensive as heck. But they're going to have the money to do some things to add a couple free agents and. But yeah, I don't know if anybody's looked at what the rookie. I guess the rookie pool depends on where you pick. So they'll have more money in the rookie pool, but it still comes out of their what they have available under the cap, which that'll take a chunk out of, no doubt.
A big chunk. Over the Cap did a good job. They list them with 21 million of projected cap space, but it's only about 12 to 13 million in, I forget what they're calling it. In, what are they calling it here? In effective cap space, because a big chunk of that is going to be going to the first round pick, because those guys get paid decent money as rookies and the cap hits are significant.
And that's if they use all 3 picks.
Which they won't, right? At least not at the positions they're slotted.
Right.
What percentage would you put it on? Howie drafting at 15, 16, and 19? There's no way, right?
I would say under 10%. That
he can't help himself.
Maybe 10%. Okay. That he stays at all 3 picks. Because there are players at those 3 spots that could help him. So on the one hand, yeah, but I think there's something to be said for turning one of those into a 1 and something else next year, or a 1 and something else this year. So there's that option. There's option of moving up and moving down. What do you think's most likely if he does wheel and deal in the first round?
I don't know if there's a scenario that's more likely than the other. Really. That's a cop-out answer, but I think both options are very much on the table, moving up or down.
Or both. He's done both.
Oh, yeah, he could do both. Yeah. I'd be shocked if they sat there at 15, 16, and 19 and just took 3 players.
Yeah. No, I agree. Although it would be kind of cool to, to sit there and write 3 stories in like 20 minutes, like about, But yeah, one of these years, Howie's going to trade out of a certain pick, trade out of 19, move up, get something, and end up back in the same spot with more picks. Like start at 19, go to 12, go to 23, and go back to 19, and have more other picks, like just and back with the same pick. So that's going to happen one of these years. He's really good. I mean, there's some things he's bad at, but draft day, I mean, he's really good at this stuff, and maximizing, the chance of landing a player. And now you just
now landing the player has proved a little more difficult at times.
Well, landing the player has worked out well, but landing the player as the people, man, my Twitter, I don't even know how it started. I mentioned Howie, and then Twitter just goes nuts. For days, people are screaming about Howie. And the thing about Howie is, like, there's no way to, like, his misses have been so bad. Like, there's been some just spectacular misses, and we all know who they are. But like usually if you miss on a guy, like, I mean, Derek Barnett's unusual miss because, like, he's just a disappointing player, but he was here his whole contract. He was a functional starter. But, like, most of his misses are, I mean, the Marcus Smiths and the, Fireman Danny's and Rager. I mean, they're just, like, I don't know, say useless.
Like laughing stock misses.
Yeah, laughing stock misses. We can go LSMs. And so
they lead the league in LSMs.
Well, I don't know if they do.
They don't.
They really don't. But then you start looking at, like, the things he's good at, like the later rounds and the trades, contracts. I mean, and people on my Twitter are like, well, you can't give him credit for Mulata. I'm like, well, why not? Like, oh, he doesn't get credit for Devontae. Like, anybody could have picked him. Well, he picked him. Like, you can't you can't pick and choose who he gets credit for. I got a guy trying to say he doesn't get credit for Mulata because it was obvious that, people will do anything to rip on Howie, but the reality is it's a really complicated body of work to evaluate because there's been the creativity he uses has been, incredible, finding guys in the late rounds and undrafted and off other rosters and, but then you have these spectacular misses. You can't just, there's no simple, easy way to evaluate him. And so people are like, well, he's the worst general manager ever. Well, he's not, or he's a genius. Well, he certainly has some crazy misses. So it's just, since there's no easy way to do it, it just goes on forever, kind of like I am right now.
The thing I appreciate about him is how bold he is, though, with these trades. Like, he wants something or he wants to move, he'll do it. And it's not always the right move, but I give him credit for that. And I think back to 16, I mean, it ended up not working out in the long term, but it worked out in the short term. You can argue. I don't think they won a Super Bowl without him. So,
yeah, I would say it worked out. I mean, yeah.
But just not even the outcome, but the thought process to do it. Even if you disagreed with it at the time or you still disagree with it, the boldness is impressive to me.
I would agree. Yeah. I mean, he's got that, like, that chess mindset of being able to see a lot of different things and put them all together and make it work. And that's valuable. There's no doubt. I mean, draft weekend is really fun, because you just never know what, they put on the big screen, the Eagles have traded this pick. Nobody's ever surprised. It's like, okay, all right.